40 years ago, we opened our doors with one mission in mind.
We'll be right back with the top 10 songs of 1983.
To sell quality American-made vehicles at a fair price.
You have arrived.
And we've loved every minute of the ride. Celebrating 40 years of Two Rivers Ford.
It is 1 o'clock. Good afternoon from the Superbook.com Sports Desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. Aaron Rodgers finally has made a decision on his future known, saying on the Pat McAfee show earlier today that his decision since Friday has been to play for the New York Jets in 2023. Rodgers added he is not the one holding things up at this moment as the Jets and Packers enter discussions for trade compensation. Titans coming off a busy day of free agency on Tuesday, signing a 49ers former linebacker, Azeez Al-Shire, and another former 49er, an offensive lineman, Daniel Brunskill. The team also picked up former Jaguars pass rusher Arden Key. He had 4.5 sacks last year, and he signs on a 3-year, $21 million deal. Titans also will not tender restricted free agent wideout Nick Westbrook-Akina. They are placing a second-round tender on defensive lineman Tier Tart. Start of the 2023 league year in the NFL is coming up in 2 hours at 3 p.m. Central Time. The NCAA Tournament's first four continues tonight. Last night saw SEMO and Mississippi State get eliminated. Texas A&M, Corpus Christi, and Pitt moved on. Tonight, it's Fairleigh Dickinson and Texas Southern battling it out for the 16 seed in the East at 5:40. Nevada and Arizona State will play for the 11 seed in the West. Following that game, you can hear the Westwood One call of both games right here on The Zone starting at 6. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Let's do this one more day with Marc Mariani hanging out for the Hitman. You ready?
Let's go.
Let's go. You got.
Was it Jason in the chat?
It was Tyler.
Tyler in the chat.
Mickey
This is for you, bud.
One more day. People are enjoying you wearing Kayla's headphones, Marc Mariani and pink headphones.
Hey, this is you guys. We took the next step since the last time I've been in the studio, and this place is unbelievable these days. And I went back and was watching the show on Twitter or whatever, and then I scrolling through Twitter, looking at the Blaine and Mickey posts, and I'm like, that guy looks like that's my face on there. I forgot we're getting recorded after day one. Day two, I remembered. I freshened up a bit.
Yes.
But day two, I realized I'm all on camera. Didn't know that, man. This is new stuff for me. I'm just a little small town Pete brain, man. Gosh, getting recorded and in a brand new studio. Jeez, watching Pat McAfee show. Big day, big day.
We've been through this before. Your hometown is bigger than my hometown, I believe.
10,000 is where I'm at.
Oh my gosh, that's New York compared to where I'm from. That was 1,900.
We are 10,000
Montana
up in the middle of nowhere, Havre, Montana. I don't want her. You can have her, Montana.
Although it's spelled like Favre, right?
It does have a French background, but the kicker is we are 110 miles away from the next biggest town and the place you fly into. So we're pretty secluded up there, man. We have the railroad and we have the border patrol, and that keeps us afloat. And we've been 10,000 since the mid '60s.
How far from Canada?
30 minutes.
Are you serious?
Border patrol, huge border patrol crossing. And
were you trying to keep people out of Canada or what?
No, what I'm saying is it's a big industry for our town. So
people
it's like
spilling here from Canada.
Everybody wants to live in Havre, Montana. Hey,
keep those Canadians out of our country.
That's right. We have to, man. It's at all costs.
I knew it was way up there. And I know you've mentioned being close to Canada before. I had no idea it was 30 minutes.
Oh, yeah. We are. So I always describe it like this. You pin the state of Montana up on a cork board, or on the wall with a pin. We're the pinhole, right in the center of the state, and then 30 minutes from the Canadian border. Craziness. All the way up there. That's another reason I got a couple screws loose, man.
Coolest place on earth, too, man.
I'll give you a small little snippet, but I love my hometown. It was a great place to grow up.
Marc Mariani.
But there might be
something.
something. There might be something when you come in there. But
I'd like to see that.
2018, I think it was, the Wall Street Journal pegged Havre, Montana, the worst place to live in the world, in the United States. Okay, and here's what Montecito, California had floods, fires, mudslides, and some torrential downpour, something else, all in a really short span, and still came in a distant second to Havre, Montana for that year. I got it on my Instagram. You guys check it out. It is so bad, but we just had a nasty winter, man. It's all good. I never had a snow day in my life. 50 below, it doesn't matter. We're built different up there, but also I'm soft as puppy. You know what? These days. With the cold weather that we've been having, I'm just running scared. I'm like, what if I've lost my way?
Okay, I know this is a sports talk show, and we didn't talk about this beforehand, but I have to ask you, how did you keep your house warm when it was 50 below? Or was your house just cold? Everybody just wore like a downfield pajamas.
I never thought twice about it. It's just normal.
Okay.
And you don't, until you leave there, you don't realize that was kind of a weird situation. Everyone's plugging their cars in at night.
Yes.
But we're going to high school. I'm going to school. Like I never missed a day of school when it was 30, 40 below. Not a day of school in my life did we miss because of snow or cold or weather ever.
Coldest football game you ever played in?
Oh, at least 10, 20 below. I mean, no, without question. I mean, we would practice and we would go punt the football and the footballs would pop. We had to stop punting the football. That happened in high school and in college at University of Montana.
Okay.
I mean, it was nasty.
How long is summer there? Like 18 minutes?
It gets 100 in the summer.
No way.
Yeah, 100 in the summer.
No way. No.
100 in the summer.
Impossible. No.
It's a beautiful place that I hope you guys go check out on your journey. It's 100. It's a
really poor job.
Yeah, really selling it.
Hey, listen, I'm trying to tell as many. Hey, anybody that has a dream of going to Montana, I'm still trying to sell it. You guys should check out North and South Dakota, man. Montana's for the birds. It's the worst place. Montana is the worst place on the planet. Everyone is listening should check out, the Black Hills in South Dakota or Bismarck. Bismarck's beautiful.
I've been to Bismarck. It is not.
Take it. You guys can have it. Leave us alone in Montana.
Maybe Aaron Rodgers will retire in Bismarck next season.
Well, he's working on trying to get to New York. So, okay, before somebody tweets us and said, talk sports, you knuckleheads. Although we did talk about how cold football games are and popping footballs in Montana. Aaron Rodgers went on the Pat McAfee show. I guess, Lucas, he got several minutes in before there was anything of substance that was said, correct? They kind of beat around the bush for 20-something minutes, and finally he was like, well, I mean, I told the Packers Friday that I'm ready to go to New York. I want to keep playing, and my intention is to play in New York, but they just haven't worked out the compensation yet. So away we go.
Took forever. He said a lot. He talked a lot without saying much for a while, and he managed to get it to a point where everybody on planet Earth knows that Aaron Rodgers is going to be a Jet without him saying he's going to be a Jet. Then he finally said it, and we're like, okay, all right, there it is. Thank you.
Some theatrics. You know what I'm starting to realize? And remember, I played for the Bears, but I grew up a cheesehead. So I watched Brett Favre for all those years. Gosh, I loved him. The post-career stuff, we won't get into. But watch that unfold through his stuff, and then A-Rod takes over. And you know what I'm starting to realize? for all the negativity of their relationship and all the stuff A-Rod would say about his, how Favre didn't try to groom him with stuff, I'm starting to realize what's going on. He wants to be just like Brett Favre. He wants everybody. He wants to hold out and watch everybody. He wants to go to the Jets, and then pretty soon he'll be at the Vikings throwing touchdowns at the playoffs. He just wants to be like his hero. It all makes sense now. What a saga. I do think he had his mind made up, though, a few days ago, and I'm sure he told the organizations, and they're starting to work out these deals. I think that's why you saw Alan Lazard sign there, and I think that's why the Corey Davis talk all started. I just think, behind the scenes they're working out the details, but both organizations I think knew what was going on, and man, two-time MVP or three-time MVP, four-time. Whatever. 2 of the last 3 years, he was the MVP.
It's multiple. Lucas is feverishly
and
typing
this is just. I mean, it's huge. I think it immediately makes the Jets Dolphins a team to beat out east for sure.
4 times: 11, 14, 2020, and 2021. Is that how many Brett Favre won?
Brett Favre won 3.
He won 3. I believe.
Well, if he wants to be like Favre, then he'll throw 22 touchdowns and 22 picks and miss the playoffs.
I saw that stat. Favre, the king of the interception, dude. He's just a gunslinger.
Here it comes, man. Somebody's going to catch it.
That's a heck of a stat, his first year with New York.
So
his only year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, then he was off to Minnesota, for 2 more years.
Yeah, and it was pretty, the 12-4 year, they get to the postseason. Favre's highlight of his Jets time was beating the undefeated Titans. Remember that?
Yeah.
Wow.
10-0.
Rodgers played this year with something called thumb avulsion. And I said this on the air, and nobody tweeted me later, which, thank goodness. I told people, don't look up, finger avulsion, because Jimmy Fallon had it a few years ago.
Oh, man.
And so, the Fallon show comes on, his whole hand is, in a big bandage. And I thought, what's wrong with his hand? So he actually said, I had what's called, I guess he was married at the time, and his wedding ring got hung on something.
His went inside out, right?
Something like that.
Yeah.
And he said, don't Google it, don't look it up. I have something called, I had ring avulsion or whatever. Anyway, the word avulsion was used. Don't Google it, he said. Guess who Googled it? This guy right here. I Googled it.
Yikes.
Think of the most disgusting thing you've ever seen. Okay, then multiply it times 1,000. It messed me up for life seeing those pictures. And I could not ungoogle it as fast enough. So just what I saw in the 100th of a second. So if A-Rod's thumb was that messed up last year, and, we watched the Packers play against the Titans in it was the last game. The Titans won before the wheels just blew off this rascal. But he would make a throw that you'd be like, oh, my gosh, where the guy was covered, and he threw it under the D-back's arm and into the receiver's hand while they're running, 43 yards down the field. And then he bounced it at people's feet on a dig route. And Blaine was like, there's still glimpses of him. And Blaine has said, and Blaine, if you're listening, he said his thumb's got to be messed up because sometimes he makes Aaron Rodgers throws and sometimes he doesn't. If that dude's healthy, watch the heck out. Healthy and motivated, and if they're signing all of his friends, watch out.
At this point, it's indisputable. The greatest quarterback of all time is Tom Brady, and that's tough to dispute and whatever else. But I always say this about Aaron Rodgers, in my opinion, is he's up there, but he's the best thrower of the football that I've ever seen. If my son ends up being a quarterback, guess who's he's watching first for mechanics, for footwork, for everything that A-Rod has going on. He's the best thrower of the football, and in the conversation for one of the best quarterbacks of all time. But when you just straight up talk about that arm, that's why he doesn't have the interceptions. He doesn't have, he doesn't have all the negative plays that you think of with Brett Favre and some others. And so I got all the respect in the world for him. I just wish we didn't have to do this whole song and dance every offseason at this point. It's just deteriorating the legacy, I believe.
No, now people seem to have, I say this, a lot of people have short memories. Favre, as you mentioned, has had some off-field activities that have soured a lot of people maybe on him. But remember, it was chaotic, and he retired, then he unretired, and he went to the Jets, and he was there for a year. Then he went to the Vikings, who were one of the, obviously, the biggest rivals, maybe the biggest rivals of the Packers. Them are the Bears. The Lions don't win enough, I guess, to be anybody's biggest rival.
Not back then either.
But But people seem to forget all that stuff, and everybody was right back on board with Brett Favre, and nobody remembered him switching teams. He was just beloved Brett Favre. Again, I say that knowing what's happened in the last few years. I think some people will just forgive and forget and go back to Aaron Rodgers, but I do think there are fans and probably a lot of listeners. I mean, I just retweeted something about him yesterday, and a guy just responded to me and whomever, I guess, that tweeted Pelissero, whoever, and said, "We get it. It's enough.
Yeah.
I think people are just exhausted of him. But as far as being a thrower of the football, you think about the years when Jordy Nelson was there, the deal where he steps up in the pocket to avoid the pass rush, and in one step then throws the ball up 60 yards in the air to a Jordy Nelson who's a half a step ahead of a DB, hits him right in the hands.
It's so good.
He has done things with the football. Well, people always say Dan Marino, I guess, had the quickest release. Like he had the ball, then he didn't have the ball. Favre probably threw the hardest of anybody.
Yeah.
He threw the ball like a cannon. But as far as somebody's on the dead run, I'm evading the rush, I'm stepping up in the pocket, this guy's running and covered, and I'm going to throw the ball literally and drop it in his two hands. Nobody in the world, to me, has done that like Aaron Rodgers.
It is. It's a beautiful thing. And you look at guys that are in that level, and you talk about Peyton Manning. Well, the things that made Peyton Manning so great, although he had a phenomenal arm, don't get me wrong, but it was more about what he did behind center and all of his stuff, his pregame, legacy and all the stuff he did before the play, before the snap and all that stuff, the leadership and all those things. That's what that is what comes to mind first when you talk about a guy like Peyton Manning or even Tom. Drew Brees has the accuracy and those kind of things. But I always think about A-Rod in the sense of one of the best of all time, but it's that arm, man. Yeah. It is that arm, and it's not only the arm and the velocity and the accuracy altogether, but it's the lack of mistakes, man. Yep. He just doesn't throw you the ball. And last year was kind of an anomaly with that, or not even throwing you the ball that many times, but making these errant throws and the bouncing ones. But, through the entirety of his career, watching that thing spin off his arm like we're watching on NFL Network. I mean, it is a beautiful thing. We call it buttery.
Yeah.
That is buttery smooth right there.
Well, he's one of a kind, that's for sure. And we'll all be held hostage a little while longer, it sounds like. But his intentions have at least been made known. Aaron Rodgers telling Pat McAfee today, I want to play for the Jets. I'm waiting for the Packers to work this out. Maybe you're trying to work your bracket out. Let's talk to our friend Chelsa Messinger next from the Daily Tip. Maybe she can give you some advice, maybe some matchups, some point spreads, some anything that she likes. We'll get into all of it next. A little NCAA tournament talk next on Blaine and Mickey. To take your first shot at college hoops with FanDuel. Now, FanDuel Sportsbook that you can get 10 times your first bet amount and bonus bets up to $200 if you're ready to take the plunge. That's right. You just bet $20 on the bracket and you're going to land $200 back in bonus bets, and that's win or lose. That's $200 that you can spend betting anything and everything, point spreads, money lines. Maybe there's a matchup that you like. Maybe you're a Vols fan and you think they got nothing to lose. They'll roll through the tournament. Well, whatever it is, you can bet it all on an app that's safe and secure and super easy to use. And there's no better place to bet the tournament than FanDuel Sportsbook. So why don't you do this? Sign up today. Go to FanDuel.com/Mickey. That's FanDuel.com/Mickey. And make every moment more with FanDuel all tournament and all March long. You'd have to be 21 or older, present in Tennessee. First online real money wager, only $10 deposit required. Refund issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Let's talk a little
Legend.
NCAA tournament matchups and more with our friend Chelsa Messinger from the Daily Tip at Chelsa Messinger on Twitter. Chelsa, it's been a minute. You've been to like Arizona and you've been to the beach. I mean, you've been living a good life without us.
Man, that makes it sound like I do live a great life. I did go to Arizona for the Super Bowl the week of to do coverage there, and then I went on vacation. But other than that, it's back to the grind because this is going to be a huge week. There's going to be over $1 billion, that's billion dollars gambled on the NCAA tournament. So it is a big week for us in the sports gambling business.
Well, I can only okay, so the Super Bowl is the Super Bowl of everything. How does this compare with the frenzy of money exchanging hands? And I say that realizing this goes on much more than just one day. How does this compare to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I think there's more money bet on the tournament as a whole because you're right. There are more games. There are more opportunities. There are more ways to bet it because for the Super Bowl, it's really one game. And honestly, it was a tough game to get a read on, I think, for me. So I think we will see more money. And plus, we're starting to see more and more states legalize sports betting. Like Massachusetts just joined the party. That is home to some people that I believe like to watch some sports. So I would not be surprised to put it, lightly. So I bet we'll see the biggest handle ever bet on this year's tournament.
Wowzers. All right, I know there's angles that people look for with everything. So what is this? I know you sent Lucas a couple of things. Every single national champion since 2002 has a very specific formula. Okay, who's got this magic formula that you're talking about?
Okay, so every single national champion since the year 2002 has had at least a top 40 offense and at least a top 22 defense. There are some teams that fit this angle. It's UConn, Purdue, Houston, Texas, Alabama, UCLA, Creighton, and Kansas. So I'm sorry, Tennessee, your offense did not make the cut. But yeah, that is what every single national champion has been, a very balanced team. So I think when you're picking a national champion, you can't just look at a team that has a great offense or a team that has a great defense. We've seen, history has told us, it's balanced teams that are winning the national title.
Wowzer. See, people are scrambling to write this down. They'll have to go back later and watch the podcast so they don't miss any of this. Chelsa Messinger, Daily Tip, hanging out with us. So I'm a big Cinderella guy. My college has played in exactly one NCAA tournament ever, and I mean ever in the history of the ever. Who are maybe or who is a Cinderella that you like that maybe they fit this formula or close?
Yeah, I do like some teams in the first round, and one that's normally people look at the 12-5 matchup because traditionally that is the matchup that produces the most upsets. But this year, I think I'm going to go with a 13 and a 4 seed matchup. It's going to be Kent State plus 4.5 over Indiana. Even if you don't like them to win outright, I do think this is a great play against the spread. Kent State has been one of the best covering teams in the nation at 21-10-1 against the spread. And they have some experience. Sincere Carey is their guard. He is the returning conference player of the year and just won tournament player of the year for Kent State. They have a great defense. They're top 65 in the defensive side of things, according to KenPom. So if anybody can shut Indiana down, I know they have some really solid players, Trace Jackson Davis, but Kent State went toe-to-toe with Houston, only lost by 4 to one of the best teams in the country, only lost by 7 to Gonzaga. So I think this is a team that's a prime candidate at least to cover against Indiana in the first round.
All right, I'm going to give you – are you ready? Okay, we're switching this around. You're interviewing me now for the Daily Tip, so here's a free one for you. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
You mentioned 12 seeds, 8-4 against the spread versus 5s in the past 3 tournaments. How about that?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I think we have some good candidates this year. A lot of people will be looking at College of Charleston going against San Diego State, but I think the under is probably the best play in that game. The total in that one's in the 140s, 141, I believe. If you get a 141 in a San Diego State game, I think you hammer the under because San Diego State makes a living on their defense. And I know Charleston has a pretty solid offense, but still, San Diego State, I think they can control the pace in this one, and they play at a snail's pace. A team that I think will control the tempo and keep it under, and that's another angle. First half unders. And just think logically. Think about these kids that are playing in their first game of the March Madness tournament. They're going to be playing on neutral courts, on different rims, where shooters have to figure out how the rims are bouncing. Each shot's a little different. And also they're playing teams that they're not that familiar with. Like a lot of these teams have not faced each other. And also there's going to be some nerves for these kids. So first half unders has been a really profitable trend in the last 10 years. They've hit at a 58% clip in the first round of March Madness. So I do like the under in San Diego State and Charleston. And also take a long, hard look at some of these first half unders.
Chelsa Messinger hanging out with us. Now, Blaine is out today, so former Titan Marc Mariani. I know when you were a youngster in Gallatin cheering for the Titans, you were probably a big fan. So he's hanging out with us today, Chelsa. So you can now say hello to Marc Mariani.
Chelsea, he gives me too much credit. All right, he's my hype man. But Chelsea,
did
go ahead.
you return kicks? I remember that.
I did return kicks. Look at that. Jeez.
See?
All right, I appreciate the love. Remembers me kind of. Well, here's what I did do. I grew up out west. All right, I grew up in Montana, so I am curious. It's been a long time since anybody in the Pac-12 made any noise at all in a tournament. UCLA, Arizona. Is anybody going to make a deep run here and go get a championship? I think I saw a stat that in the last 22 years we haven't had a winner west of Baylor to win the national tournament. Or the national championship. Do you like either of those plays?
Yeah, if I'm remembering correctly, though, I think it was not last year, but the year before, where we had at least two Pac-12 teams in the Final Four. Now, they didn't win it, but still, we've had some good teams come out of the Pac-12, and I think it's UCLA that I think would have the best shot, because we're talking about balanced teams, teams that don't rely too heavily on their offense, because that's the problem with Arizona. Their offense can go toe-to-toe with just about anybody, but it's their offense, it's their defense that really gives me some pause on them. But UCLA, they've got the guard play, because that's another hallmark of a really good March Madness team, in my eyes, is a team that has the guards that can control the tempo. They have the experience, and that is Tiger Campbell, point guard for UCLA. That is Jaime Jaquez Jr., the guard for UCLA. And plus they have a really good coach as well, Mick Cronin. So I think I will go with UCLA, because they're also not in the bracket with Alabama, because that's who Arizona has to face coming out of the South.
Yeah, I like that.
How much do you look at experience, Chelsa?
Yeah, I think it matters. I think you look at a team and look at the gauntlet that you have to face in the tournament, because it's not just one or two games. It is multiple games. It's going to be mentally tough. You need those guys that at the end of these games can make the free throws, can carry the weight of, the final minute of the game, because I think that's probably the toughest part for these kids who are not used to performing in the spotlight is, the final minute when things seem, like the pressure is overwhelming. But if you look at some of these mid-majors, they actually do have some experience advantages over some of the blue bloods. Here's a crazy one. Drake, who plays Miami in the first round, has 5 of their 6 top players who are at least fifth-year seniors. That's right. They're point guard, and one of their guards are actually sixth-year seniors because of the COVID rules. So maybe,
or just what I called college. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, speaking of, isn't Timmy playing in his 17th college for Gonzaga? Oh, I'm just kidding.
But that's what I'm saying. These guys have a big advantage because they know what's going on. And also, going back to Drake, they have 4 guys who have played 3 full seasons together. So as opposed to, the teams that have the one and dones like we usually see from Kentucky, these are guys who know how each other plays. They have better chemistry. So maybe that's one small advantage that you will not see on the stat sheet.
Drake started from the bottom. Now they're here.
How much stock do you put into, let's go back to the SEC, because I'm a SEC homer these days living down here, but how much stock do you put into 8 teams, tied for the most, put in the tournament? Their regular season schedule makes them a little more battle tested. Same with the Big 12 and other good conferences. But I'm looking at, besides Alabama, and we get eight teams for in the SEC. Do you see anybody in the SEC that stands out? Texas A&M or Arkansas, or who else is there? Kentucky? Anybody that you feel got a good draw that could maybe make a run at this thing?
Man, I liked Arkansas, but they got a terrible draw. In the second round, they'll have to play Kansas, and that's a team that I think can definitely win it all. Because going into this tournament, I went to the SEC tournament here in Nashville to watch Arkansas for that reason. And if anybody has like the pedigree, it's Arkansas. They've been to the Elite Eight, 2 years in a row?
Yeah.
Under Musselman, so a coach that knows how to get done in March. But doesn't Alabama look head and shoulders above everybody else in the SEC? It was a cakewalk for them in the SEC tournament, won every single game by 10-plus points. And going back to the balanced aspect of these great teams, that's Alabama. They don't need their shots to fall because they have one of the best defenses in the country. So I think it's hard to choose anybody but Alabama coming out of the SEC. But I wouldn't really hang your hat too much on saying, oh, yeah, we have like tied for the most teams, because the Big Ten can say that too. And I'm not really picking anybody out of the Big Ten. It is quality over quantity. So, yeah, you got Mississippi State in. You got, Texas A&M, which I think they got seeded a little bit too. I guess it's low or high. I think they kind of got screwed a little bit. But still, I think it's Alabama head and shoulders above the rest of the SEC.
Well, I have a question about the Big Ten again. Purdue out in the East. I'm curious, to me, I see some clear-cut Final Four in the other regions, but I'm looking through there and I'm wondering, is it going to be Michigan State? Is it going to be Kentucky? Is it going to be Duke that gives Purdue a run for that region? Because I think they're the most vulnerable, number one, in my opinion, amateur opinion. But do you see anybody in the East that could shake it up?
Yeah, the East definitely looks like the region where a number one is most likely to fall, because in the gambling world, we have been fading Purdue a lot because this is a team that will win games. There's a reason they're a number one seed, but they don't cover. So it means they're playing a lot of close games with teams that they should not be playing close games with. We saw it in the Penn State game in the Big Ten tournament. But I think you could pick several teams out of that region. Memphis, if they get out of their first round matchup against FAU, I wouldn't be shocked if they beat Purdue in their second round matchup. You look at Duke, a team that's getting really hot down the stretch, and it's not just their offense. Their defense has been completely locked down. In the ACC tournament, they just won the ACC tournament. You look at Tennessee, which I know you guys probably want to talk about Tennessee, but from a betting perspective, this is the hardest team to figure out.
We're all a little nervous.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you never know which Tennessee team you're going to get. The defense is always good, but the offense just isn't very trustworthy. So you have to trust it for multiple games down the stretch. That's not something I want to do. Kentucky's certainly athletic, but I do think they have a tough first-round matchup against Providence. And then, like you said, Tom Izzo's season was Michigan State. And then Marquette, the number 2 seed, I think probably has the best shot at winning out of that region. But you're right. The East looks the most winnable of any region.
So if you had to go to Marc Mariani's house and pull his Pro Bowl jersey off the wall and bet it on Memphis or Tennessee to go further in this tournament, Memphis Tigers or Tennessee Vols, who would you bet his jersey on?
Oh, God.
Big bet. It's
very
a big,
personal.
It's very high value.
I'm making
Especially
this as
on
personal as
eBay.
I can, Chelsea. I want you to really think about it.
That's a very pricey bet.
That seems oddly personal. Like, please don't do this if you're thinking about it. It seems way too specific. But I think Tennessee actually has the tougher path just because they'll probably have to go through Duke in the second round. And like I said, Duke has been out of this world, it seems like, with their defense. And they have the senior guys that certainly have the experience because they went to the Final Four last year. Memphis, like I said, I think their toughest task is FAU in the first round. So if they can get past that, I think Purdue's beatable. Like, I'm not calling for an upset, but I think Memphis would actually have the easier round. So I feel Memphis, but please don't bet anybody's jersey. It's very specific and very personal.
Yeah, Mickey. And you're not allowed in my house if you're going to steal
Fair
my
enough.
jersey.
Now that I've said that. All right, on the way out, anything specific that you like, maybe day one or day two, like overs, unders, anything that you've specifically got your eye on as the tournament gets started over these first couple of days?
Yeah, tonight I've got Texas Southern on the money line. It's not my favorite play, but this is an experience factor. Texas Southern was in this exact same scenario last season and won their first 4 game. And also, it's a matter of Fairleigh Dickinson being one of the shortest teams in all of basketball. You know that meme they have, or the action that the post players do, the too small? We're going to see a lot of that because most of their players are in the 5'8", 5'9" range. Their tallest player in their starting 5 is 6'6". So Texas Southern should be able to get some good second chance looks. The rebounding advantage is there, and a lot of easier baskets because they have a big size advantage. And then moving on to the other days, like I said, I do like Kent State plus 4.5 over Indiana. And then the under, College of Charleston and San Diego State. San Diego State has a lockdown defense. 141 is a pretty high total. And also, this is one based on the line. Utah State is actually the favorite over Missouri, despite being a 10 seed.
Yeah.
I think that line's really telling. So I think I'll be on Utah State for that reason. And then UCSB over Baylor. They're getting 11.5 points. I think this is just a case of too many points for a Baylor team that's really been all over the place. Just 13-14 against the spread as a favorite, 2 outright losses as sizable favorites to end the season over or against Iowa State, I should say. And UCSB 4-1 against the spread as an underdog this season. So those are just a few of the litany of plays that I will be playing this week.
What about the Tennessee, Louisiana, Lafayette under?
Yeah, I kind of went back and forth on this one.
Okay.
Because that was my gut feeling, because Tennessee, I'll say one thing. Defense usually travels, and that's one thing Tennessee has going for them. But it's a tough matchup for Louisiana Lafayette because I think a lot of people see that game and see, well, Tennessee's not been great at covering numbers this year. But I do like unders in general in the first round. Maybe this is a recipe for a first half under, because I do think Louisiana Lafayette is going to struggle with that Tennessee defense. It's so long and lanky, and plus they're a team that's prone to turnovers and a team that's prone to giving up steals. And Tennessee, if they can do one thing, they can cause some havoc on that defense. So I think it's going to be a tough time for Louisiana Lafayette to score. I just don't know what we're going to expect from Tennessee's offense. That is the X factor. But I would take a long, hard look at the under 136.
All right, here's what you do, people. Follow her at Chelsa Messinger on Twitter, and then watch the Daily Tip every day, or listen wherever you like to catch your favorite podcast. Correct, Chelsa, and then they can know all this knowledge all the time that you're putting out with your partners there on Daily Tip.
Oh, yes, and I will be posting all of my plays if you did not write them down. Got you covered.
Love it. Thank you so much. Enjoy the tournament. We'll talk again soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yes, ma'am. The one and only Chelsa Messinger. All right, we'll come back with more from the one and only Marc Mariani. Latest in the free agency world, there's another quarterback who has a job. Another quarterback has a job and a deal. We'll tell you who that is next. There's a whole lot of rhythm going around here, Blaine and Mickey. You want the funk? We got it in the form of Marc Mariani and pink headphones hanging out for the Hitman for one more day. Baker Mayfield to the Bucs for 1 year, $8.5 million.
Dude, talk
He's
about
going to compete with Kyle Trask for the starting job.
Middle of last year, he didn't have a job.
Nope.
And he goes into LA, wins that just an absolute. What was it? Just last 3 plays, he threw it up.
It was fantastic.
And he wins the game. It was so good. I'll never forget it. Running around like the old Baker, and now he gets another deal and a shot to be the starter. It's unbelievable.
Hey, look at his targets, too. Look who he gets to throw to.
Oh, I know. Well, whoever gets to play quarterback for that team is pretty lucky. I mean, Mike Evans still a game changer, and Godwin. Both absolute ballers, so him and Kyle Trask will be battling it. And Blaine Gabbert's still on the roster. Interesting enough. Is that true? At per ESPN, I'm looking at.
They also have, okay, what's the guy's name? He is my greatest hero in football. Is it Ryan Griffin?
Is it Gio Bernard?
No. Ryan Griffin. I've talked about him before. Ryan Francis Griffin is 33 years old.
Is he a quarterback?
Oh, no, that's a different Ryan Griffin. All right, I'm still looking.
I don't.
Hold on. I wasn't prepared to do this. Ryan Griffin, quarterback. Here we go. Ryan Walsh Griffin. He is also 30. There's 2 Ryan Griffins in the league. They're both 33. Played at Tulane. He has been in the league since 2013. He has been with the Bucs since 2015.
Wow.
He has no touchdowns, no interceptions. He has 18 career passing yards.
And he's like a cockroach. You can't get rid of him.
He's like
I love
Twinkies
guys
after a
like
nuclear
that.
holocaust where
Love
they say
guys
that
like
them
that.
and cockroaches would survive. Yes. He threw in 2019 4 passes. He completed 2 of them for 18 yards. That's the extent of his NFL career.
What a stud.
He is never not in the NFL.
What a stud.
I know people talked a lot about Logan Woodside and how he was able to stick around here for all those years, and God bless him. Ryan Griffin will leave the NFL, Mark, with like 2 good knees and all of his faculties and a crap ton of money and a Super Bowl ring. He also was the guy, remember when Tom Brady, after the Super Bowl parade, was a little bit too tipsy, and he kind of gets out in the public and people are getting some cell phone video, and another guy like escorted him, remember, like through a doorway.
Yeah, I do remember that. That was your
this
guy. That was his moment in the sun.
So Tom Brady's like, hey, man, I don't care what you do. This guy's not going anywhere.
Wow.
And they're going to listen to the GOAT like, okay, we'll just keep a third-string quarterback then, whatever you say.
What a run.
This dude is my greatest hero. Now, I don't know. He was actually on their practice squad this past year, I guess, but still in the league. 4 passes. He has been in the league since 2013. Ryan Griffin, that is my hero. Again.
Grinder. Grinder.
And now think about this. His workload is diminished. There's only 3 preseason games now.
That's true.
Although maybe this is the end for him. Maybe he won't, maybe they finally pull the plug. But God bless him, because he's going to go somewhere and he's going to be this guy, and he maybe makes it in the tech world, or he's selling typewriters, or, ag chemicals, or whatever his next career is going to be. And they're going to be like, hey, man, you used to play some ball or something. Okay, let's get his measurements here. He is...
While you do that, I have to fact check myself. Blaine Gabbert is not on. He's a free agent. Okay. So, my bad.
6'4", 218, Ryan Griffin. So, he's quarterback sized.
Stud.
So, like, he's, on this business trip with everybody, and they're, working for Widget Incorporated. And so, there's all these people at the bar, and they're like,
hey, what'd you do before this,
hey, man,
Ryan?
what'd you do? You're a young guy. You're still in your 30s. You're pretty new in this industry. What have you been doing? I was in the NFL. Seriously, like as a coach? No, I was on a team.
Since 2013, bro.
I was on 2 teams. I was on the Saints and the Buccaneers with Tom Brady. I know Tom Brady. Look, here's his number in my phone. Tom Brady. I played with him. Remember the drunk video of him? I'm the guy that saved him. No, you're not. There's no way that's you. I was on the Bucs for 8 years. There's no way. This dude is my hero.
That's amazing.
So when he's selling, for Dunder Mifflin, and he's selling that ream of paper.
You're buying. You're buying.
I'm buying from him.
Yeah.
Buying from Ryan, 100%.
Hey, I got a stat for you.
Okay.
Back to the Aaron Rodgers saga and my Cheesehead days. Since 1992.
Oh, boy.
Exactly 30 years.
Aaron Rodgers has been holding his hostage.
Since 1992, that organization has had 2 starting quarterbacks. Exactly 30 years. How outrageous is that?
Outrageous.
It's the end of an era, and I think it brings the Packers back down to middle of the pack.
Human level.
Middle of the pack. Packers middle of the pack.
Well, think about this. This is not Favre in 92 levels, but the Titans until this past year had essentially had 2 punters ever.
Oh, wow.
I mean, they had 1 year of Reggie Roby, I believe, as the Tennessee Oilers, but after that it was Craig and the great Brett Kern.
Hey, you guys want to know why the Eagles lost the Super Bowl? Because you call Brett Kern on Saturday night before the Super Bowl.
Agreed.
And you tell him that the punter who hasn't punted since week 8
I agree.
is starting after you've had 2 weeks of preparation.
Yep.
And you're not going to dress. And what does Sisyphus, what's his name? The punter, what does he do? He shanks it in the 4th quarter. Shanks it and sets up a